Hello and welcome to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview, and our special segment, Life and Times with HT. Mention Nripendra Mishra and mind goes back to that powerful bureaucrat who virtually ruled the Prime Minister's office between 2014 and 2019. And then he quit suddenly. A few months of doing nothing, and then back again in full force, heading the Prime Minister's Museum and chairing the Ram Mandir construction committee. Being an insider, he has many stories, but like his former boss, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he keeps away from public gaze. Therefore, to get him and make him actually talk about his eventful life is not easy. But we did, and have him here with us in our talk show to take us through the different phases of his life in this edition of Life and Times with HT. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nripendra Mishra, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much.
Let me take you down memory lane. You left medicine to join the civil service. You were, quote unquote, blinded by the civil service or nothing thought. Aage civil service or piche diwar, as you once told me.
I joined medicine because that was the selection of my family. My elder brother was engineer. We are two brothers, so the next choice was medicine. I did appear in pre-medical tests, got admitted in KG Medical College, Lucknow. That's the time when my professor of biology said to me that you have got first division in BSc. You should aim for something higher. So I didn't know, because for me it was all medicine. Even as a child, when I used to play, I used to, pick up some kind of a stick and inject on my friends.
So from injecting with a stick to aage civil service or piche diwar thought, how did that happen?
Yes. Then I went to my father and I told him, I want to appear in IAS. Let me just give you a family background. My grandfather was a deputy collector in UP, long time back. So my father said, if you can get into IAS, you'll add 10 years to my life. But if you don't get in IAS, then you'll be a clerk of AG office. So there is a choice. There is a wall behind you. You cannot. And then if you wish to aspire for, you should appear. So this is how I suddenly left KG Medical College.
It was your teacher who said you're made for bigger things, so join the services.
That's right. My professor of biology.
Is it true that you actually molded yourself to fit into the civil services?
For me, it was a challenge that I must get into IAS. I was being reminded about my father's 10 years.
That you'll either be a clerk or...
So all this led to, and then naturally, I'm very frank, till about medical college, I was not reading mostly the English novels, too many newspapers. The moment I was to go in IAS, I was told you must read extensively. So I started doing that. You'll not believe. I used to get about 150 rupees a month for mess, fees and everything. So I would save the money, go to Universal Bookstore in Allahabad, and every month I would buy 3 books.
So out of the 150, how much went into books?
Always not less than 30 rupees. I borrowed books, and that is how I started preparing for the IAS. I had done very well in written exams. When I went for interview in Union Public Service Commission, I was very nervous because I thought today is the day.
Either I make it
or make it or not. I did my interview very badly. I thought it's all over now. Fortunately, though very low marks in interview, but extremely high marks. Those days they used to total it, so I could make it.
Is it also true that guilt gripped you when you were playing bridge during preparation of these exams?
Oh, I didn't know where you picked. Yes, I was very fond of bridge. Every day I will determine henceforth no more cards. But then there were about 4-8, the colleagues in the hostel. They will always force me, and I would be persuaded very easily.
How and why did success become, and I would say not second, but your first nature? How did that happen? How and why?
My father will always insist, and he was a very, very hard taskmaster.
And once when you didn't score high, he scolded you.
Yes, not just scolded. He threw my cricket bat outside the house. You get marks, but somewhere you may not gather knowledge. It was injected in me that I must get success through these recognitions.
Take me through the early innings of your life as a civil servant. What was the learning?
If I am late in any commitment, it is so painful. The second lesson I got from a senior officer when I was working in the field, and he said, Mr. Mishra, remember 2 things. One, the God has not made anywhere any service like IAS. Then he said, I say this not because you have power. I say this because this is the service where you can serve the masses. You can serve the poor. And you will find that those poor people will visit your home or office after 10 years also and remember what good you did. You may have forgotten. I think these 2 matters were extremely important in my way of functioning in the service.
Have you seen failure, and when and what did it do to you?
Yes, it happened. In the career of any officer, civil service, it does happen. It's a career roughly of about 35 years. So you do come across postings, transfers, which perhaps you think that it is not fairly done or it is a subjective decision.
Give me an example.
One example. I was working as chairman of Greater Noida. The government had changed and Lucknow. Within 24 hours of the change, I was transferred as member board of revenue, Allahabad. Now this post generally is a very condemned post. Generally is given to somebody from the provincial civil service who rises. But it was a punishment posting. Most of the IAS people, if they are posted, they join, report and take leave. In fact, after 2-3 days of my posting there, when I was doing the court work, it's a court work basically, revenue case. So the advocate said, sir, how is it that you are coming every day? So I said, what happened to you? And by then I had attained a certain status in my civil service career. You are coming, you are not going on leave. We come every day with the hope that I will give a long date now. But you are giving dates and you are not agreeing to adjournments, you are very keen to dispose of. So those are the kind of things. The message that I want to give, if there is a setback in career, faith in God. This is important to maintain a degree of sanity in your life. So this is one job. I spent about a year and a half there. I didn't go on leave. I stayed in Circuit House, one room. But the government wanted me to do, I did it.
Your first posting was Aligarh, which was communally sensitive. And from there to Ram temple construction. How did this change your thought process for the better or the worse?
Aligarh posting was my initial year. In almost all the meetings, I could sense that Aligarh is a very sensitive district, and particularly Aligarh Muslim University did need special attention. So that sensitivity in my mind was working throughout. And in many of the law and order situations, which of course I won't take your time, which I faced, the message that I had got in Aligarh was, don't try to ensure your absence of body from the scene of action.
Just explain this to me.
My senior collector told me, if there is a crisis, then your presence of mind and your personal presence is very much necessary. In fact, now it has become a performance criterion. Those days it was not so rigid, but now if the SSP and district magistrate don't go to the scene of crisis, they are immediately suspended. So
then it was by choice.
Then let us say there was some people were of the view that if you are district magistrate, you must sit at the center and guide. There were other seniors who were of the view, no, the thing has occurred and therefore you must go. So both opinions are there. But in my mind, it was all the time there that you must try and reach where the events are taking place.
Talking of Aligarh, what does or what did communalism mean to you, particularly in the context of the way the BJP looks at it?
Those days, we were not at all, as a young officer, conscious of the political parties. You get this thought only when you become senior officer. If I recall Aligarh days, I didn't even know what is the activity of BJP. What I always knew was what is the activity of one group or the other. For example, one day in Aligarh Muslim University, there were torn pages of Ramayana. Another 2 months, and there was said to be bone of cow, which was there around the Aligarh, outside the university. Now, we focused only on these activities and we always thought these are miscreants. Mentally, you are not trained in the beginning to immediately attribute motives or to blame one or the other party. I came out of Aligarh and frankly, I had no fixed views about any party. I actually became conscious only when I got to Lucknow and became principal secretary to the chief minister, because that was the time when Ram Mandir Andolan was at its peak. That's the time when we went in great detail.
In fact, I was just coming to that you served as principal secretary to two chief ministers, Kalyan Singh and Mulayam Singh Yadav. Different parties, different ideologies, different personalities, and, kind of opposites. How was the transition? And as you just said, that is when you learnt what communalism could be, or what a cow bone or, tearing pages of the Ramayana meant. So just take me through that process, the realization, what it meant, what it did to you.
The Andolan had started. It was getting picked up, not just in UP. It was more in Delhi. But obviously, we knew that it will have repercussions there, in Ayodhya and Lucknow. It was not very widely spread in the beginning. I do feel, when I look back, maybe not then, that if this particular dispute was properly addressed in the beginning, don't ask where all there was this, people slipped, but there was perhaps a chance of resolution. Sitting in the on the fifth floor room of principal secretary, I would meet any number of leaders, both from the minority community and majority community. I often ask the minority community, why are you insisting? Why can't you sacrifice one place? Particularly because, by then we were told there's no worship there, etc., from the minority community. So they said, look, Mr. Mishra, even if we concede this place, we are not sure. There is nobody to assure us that this will be the end of it.
And this could be the beginning.
Yeah, it could be as well the beginning. When I was talking to the majority, they obviously had a baggage of history. They often mentioned about independent India. They often mentioned about the birthplace of Lord Ram. So they would say that, look, we are asking the government to reach to some kind of an amicable solution. We are not determined, or we are not predetermined for any particular direction in which it will go. By then it was getting complicated. During the days of your question now, during the days of first chief minister whom I served, the agitation had become all India agitation. There was entry of religious leaders in the majority community for organizing, which was very, very, in some respects,
Volatile.
Volatile, but apart from that, it generated heat everywhere. When the
Heat or hatred?
religious leaders, when they make an appeal, it has impact on. So this became a very powerful, it was no longer located, isolated place in Awadh, Ayodhya, or Lucknow.
And this was during Mulayam Singh Yadav's time.
Yes, yes. It had already picked up the all India demand. But the entire attention in the second phase of my career, when I was serving my second chief minister,
Mr. Kalyan Singh.
Kalyan Singh ji, there was more or less everyone had come to a mental makeup that this will only get resolved in judiciary. Both the sides were complaining that the matter is getting complicated because issues are getting delayed. So the makeup was of the leaders of both the communities that this judicial decision must come as soon as possible. Why I mention this is important. You see, for certain acceptance also in the country, there is a dynamics of events and dynamics of time. By the time the Supreme Court judgment came, that period had come, the time had come that both the communities were now ready to accept the judgment of the highest court of the country. But it was a very prolonged affair. It did cost nation. We had to pay price for it.
So tell me about the handling, Mulayam Singh Yadav, Kalyan Singh, and the thought process which was diametrically opposite, 180 degrees turnaround, and that transition.
The first chief minister with whom I was working was of the strong view that the state has no role in this decision. The role is with the communities, the community leaders. The role of the state is to maintain law and order at all costs. Now, the word at all costs is very important. So he was determined to handle the situation where the law and order machinery will obviously given the supreme power to handle the local agitation and developments at the local level. It had its repercussions.
Which means?
In a way that it was seen as a challenge by both the communities. On the other hand, Mr. Kalyan Singh was very clear in his mind. I will, perhaps I'm getting, it's a very lengthy answer, but let me just give you the last part of my experience when I was not principal secretary. I had come to Greater Noida as chairman. This was after about 4 days of demolition of the mosque. He called me for a dinner. So he discussed two things he said. Firstly, he said that I was very clear that there will be no extreme action by the police to control the agitationists. And therefore, it has to be a political decision. Officers cannot decide this. Mr. Kalyan Singh was very clear that force will not be used in this manner and no free hand will be given to police for all steps that may become necessary. So he ordered on the file that you cannot fire over a crowd of 1 lakh people. So please do everything minus firing, no fire. So this is the, the kind of difference in the two temperaments of the political leaders, which was there, of course, there is no doubt about it.
Let me ask you, do you think if the order or thinking of Mr. Kalyan Singh was different and the forces were given a free hand, the demolition could have been prevented?
I cannot say that. I was not there. I would say that if the crowd had come close to where these structures were, then there was no way to stop the crowd. If, let us say, the government, central government and state government were determined, in that case they would have taken extreme steps, may not be popular, may not be acceptable, of stopping anybody entering into Ayodhya, which was impossible. I recall when I was there and the first agitation took place and I was principal secretary to my first chief minister. On that day, when the announced date was there, I received a call from commissioner shouting at the top of his voice saying, "Mr. Mishra, what are you doing sitting in the room? Here I am getting people from all sides. It looks as if fronts have been opened minimum 100 places." He says, if I stop at one, they are entering from the other side. हिंदी में बोले टिड्डी की तरह आ रहे हैं, वो आ रहे हैं, इनको हम रोक नहीं सकते अब. Fortunately, it could be handled in some manner, some pleasant, some not very pleasant. But if you allow in such kind of agitations people to reach near the site or the point of dispute, then it is very difficult.
So, in hindsight, was that the original mistake, if I may use the word? And looking back, the circumstances which you are talking about, the demolition was in one sense inevitable.
I would like to talk this and reach to a conclusion because the central government, union government was also involved. There were many attempts for reconciliation. There was a meeting of NDA. The chief minister of UP had gone. He did say that he will handle the situation, but of course, he was very cautious when he made that commitment. You know what happened after. So, it is not possible for me to make any conclusive judgment when I was not there at this spot.
Tell me about Mr. L.K. Advani's arrest and the conflicting actions of Mulayam Singh Yadav and Kalyan Singh.
Mr. Advani was arrested when Chief Minister was Mr. Mulayam Singh. This issue never came up during the regime of Mr. Kalyan Singh. He had gone from Delhi to Bihar and he was to enter Uttar Pradesh. So obviously there was and the momentum to the agitation had come. The present Prime Minister was convener of Advaniji's Rath Yatra. Everyone knew that lakhs of people will be there when he will come to Ayodhya. So one classical law and order theory is, please don't allow him to come. In another context, you just asked me that question. So he will have to be arrested. I needn't mention, but there was a place where arrangements were made in UP. But the Chief Minister of Bihar was equally determined that he must not be allowed to cross Bihar.
Yes, in fact, he was arrested in Bihar and not Uttar Pradesh. So I was going to ask you, what is the backstory?
Yes. So there was a meeting of very, very senior people. I was also there. I advised the Chief Minister that we should prefer not to arrest him in UP. Because if you remember, by then there was already a notice from BJP that if Shri Advani ji is arrested, then we will withdraw the support from the central government. So I argued that, look, the state government and particularly the top level of political leaders in UP, they will be also blamed for instability in center if he is arrested. Secondly, it could pose a very serious law and order problem when he gets arrested. I mean, you can't control the crowd, you can't direct the crowd, they may burn a station, they may do anything. So my advice was that it is better he is not arrested. Well, I had to say that after due consultation at the topmost level, the Chief Minister decided, all right, if I will postpone that decision for now and not make arrangements for his arrest at the entry point in UP, and let me see what happens. By then, of course, the announcement was already made by Chief Minister of Bihar that he will arrest. And Advani ji was arrested in Bihar. So in some ways, we didn't face the situation.
Would you say your advice prevailed on Mr. Yadav?
Not my advice alone. Though I was in minority there, other senior officers, DG Police, Chief Secretary, they were all in favor. But the Chief Minister had very close contacts with many leaders, including Chandrasekhar ji. And I do believe that he went out in another room, consulted his colleagues and senior leaders, and returned to say that immediate decision is being deferred. I would review this after 1 or 2 days. So I alone was not responsible. Chief Minister's own discretion or vivek, as we call it, judgment was there with the help of very, very important national leaders in Delhi.
You're being modest, but I'll still ask you, were you the trigger?
You see, my advice was tested through the telephonic calls to Delhi. He did call 2-3 leaders, and then only he decided to change it. So I will really give credit to those national leaders that the analysis presented should be accepted for now.
I'll leave it at that because you're not going to tell me more. How different were Mr. Advani's and Mr. Vajpayee's perspectives on Ayodhya and also the RSS? It's a political question, but you've been in the thick of things. So while this didn't directly, relate to your functioning, but you would know.
I will mention to the extent my code of conduct permits. As far as RSS is concerned, they don't, or let me say they never, make any particular andolan, agitation, as a national goal in their 100 years of existence. For them, Ram Mandir was recognized as a Rashtriya Andolan.
The only one.
Only one. Even now it remains the only one. So this is the attitude, or let us say the belief of RSS. There was no difference of opinion at all amongst the senior leaders of RSS and the Karyakartas, the workers, the volunteers.
Irrespective of the demolition of the masjid, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter, but they kept on insisting during conversation, which I heard because I used to be present in the meeting. Chief Minister will call them. He even asked me to go and meet the RSS chief, who was then admitted in the Sanjay Gandhi Hospital, Lucknow, for some recovery. So there was a dialogue, but the RSS as a social organization believed that either the government must act, judiciary must act and take a call, and they always said that the judgment of Supreme Court will be acceptable to them. And as far as this thought process, if you ask me, the Advani ji's and Atal ji's, on the issue of Ram temple, there was very little difference, or perhaps no difference. Personalities are different, you know. You know very well, I mean, you have covered Atal ji and Advani ji.
That's why I asked this question.
So you know very well that how they will handle. Advani ji was very much in the organization, in the party organization. He was extremely active, but most of the time he was working literally on behalf of Atal. Atal ji also believed that solution has to come. I remember very well when he was not Prime Minister and he would visit Lucknow and meet Shri Kalyan Singh. And the conversation always said, this problem will have to be resolved. It should not be allowed to grow like a cancer. So ultimate result, I do not see any difference between the two.
You said the Chief Minister asked you to visit the RSS chief. What transpired in the meeting? What was the message that you carried at that time?
I mean, I was not alone. The IG intelligence was also sitting with me. So we first, of course, talked about his health, if there is anything wanting. When we tried to raise something, subject, let us say, or even an oblique mention, he smiled and said, you guys are officers. You should not talk with me on this subject. So he completely avoided any discussion on this subject.
So it was, in a sense, a futile meeting.
We didn't have a mandate. There was no result expected. This was more, from the Chief Minister side also, it was more a mission of goodwill. Then he was never even expecting us to seek a solution on this. So no question. Yeah.
Pre and post Masjid's demolition, what and how much changed?
The first change is the political complexion had changed, and therefore the thought process naturally will change. Secondly, it gained momentum. The workers, or let us say the volunteers who were in favor, they were getting impatient. You could hear the voice now that enough is enough. There should be a time limit for solution. So the dialogue was on between the RSS party and the government of India continuously. But everyone believed that nothing but judicial intervention would now meet.
Coming to the minorities, during Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav's tenure, they were over-secure. During Mr. Kalyan Singh, they were insecure. I mean, that was the impression. What was the truth and how did it work?
What you said is the most important thing. You just now said that's the impression.
Okay.
So, you see, the BJP has an ideology which emphasizes on nationalism, it emphasizes on unity, but the impression in the minority was that they may not get justice as they think. It's extremely important. Justice as they think.
Or deserve.
Yeah, or deserve. During the regime of BJP, they felt that perhaps they are likely to get justice from the other party.
We stop here because to encapsulate Mr. Mishra's life in one segment would be a shortcut. So await the second part next week, wherein we talk about his most important assignment as Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, on how and why Mr. Modi handpicked him and why he went that extra mile to amend a law to accommodate him.